You've probably seen it in Facebook groups, like people asking, how do I get sponsorship? Or what company should I approach? Or what should I write in the thing that I'm going to send to all these companies? And I'm going to be brutally honest, sorry, they're not asking the right questions to start with. My name's Christina, she, her, and I support small organizations to make your work easier to manage and fund. This guide to corporate fundraising came about because members of Sticky Notes Squad, my email support, were asking for it, and because corporate fundraising doesn't work in the way that most people think. So you can write the most beautiful pitch in the world and send it to thousands of businesses, but sending it out cold like that literally does not work. Getting a business to hand over cash to you, whether that's sponsoring an event or making a donation to your organization, is all about building relationships. So in this resource, quite often we'll talk about corporate partnerships. It's the same thing, in essence, sponsorship, corporate partnerships, business supporting you, whatever. But it's that relationship partnership element that makes it work. So my very first involvement in the world of fundraising was for taking a show to Edinburgh Fringe Festival as a teenager. And this will tell you how old I am. They literally gave us the yellow pages and told us to start working our way through writing to companies to ask for money. Shock news, we didn't get sponsorship for the show. And that old idea of sending out a snazzy proposal to a load of businesses and hoping that one bites just doesn't work, especially in the current financial climate when marketing budgets are under pressure. And for small organizations, standard sponsorship often isn't the right model anyway. Traditional sponsorship is all about visibility, so putting logos in front of thousands of people, thinking big festivals, football matches, mass market events, stuff with bajillions of people attending and showing highlights on TV or whatever. That's not how our organizations work. And so you have to be able to build a partnership which makes more sense than we can put your logo on stuff. And I'm not trying to put you off, honestly. It's kind of the opposite. There is potential for getting corporate support, getting business support. But for small not-for-profit organizations, where it's just one thing on your to-do list, we need to approach it a bit differently. And what you have to offer is different from those mass market events and is valuable. So you'll hear from a couple of brilliant guests. There's fundraisers who've been doing this stuff, who've been really generous to share their time and experience to give you some real examples, specifically for small organizations, and tips and approaches that you can use. So the first episode of this sort of kind of podcast is from Resma Patel, who's going to take us through a live example of a community centre that she worked with to get corporate funding and partnerships for.
Hello, hi, my name's Resma, and I am a funding and capacity building advisor. And I suppose my background is rooted in social housing. So I work primarily with community groups, setting them up, constituting them, helping them develop the policies, etc., with a view to getting started on fundraising. As well as that, I also help develop and work with slightly larger organizations and charities. And that might include developing their fundraising strategy, putting in systems to diversify income streams, I would say. And one of those, diversification, the corporate sponsorship.
In the real example we're going to look at, Resma supported a community centre to develop a fundraising plan. And for their corporate fundraising, the first thing they did was make sure they were really clear about their mission, what they were trying to achieve as an organisation, and the key things that they offered. So for context, they're a charity with about 250k turnover per year, but growing, offering housing and employment advice and support, and then youth services, counselling services, sports, etc., as well as a cafe. So over to Resma to explain what they did from there.
We listed all the different things that we offer, and we shaped them and wrote them in a way that might sound attractive to people outside of the community that we serve. The second thing that we did was we did a massive piece of research, and it took a long time going through all of the businesses that are operating within probably about 10-mile radius of where this community centre is situated. So we knew about some of the businesses, but we didn't know all of them. So that piece of research resulted in a database, and it took a while. And it's a live document in that we add organizations and then we take away organizations as people move on. So that was the second piece of work that we did. The third thing that we did was then to look through all of these organizations, all of these businesses that we had a list of, and married up their corporate social responsibility, values, ethics, direction, and matched them with the values of the charity and made notes of the things that we would welcome support for and the things that were outside of our needs. So where a company doesn't match our own values, we took them out of the list. At this point, I should say that piece of work sounded and felt like it was a huge task. Make it relevant to you and do it in small chunks of time. Don't let it overwhelm you. And that's why I say it took a while to do. The list that we have is now a piece of gold. So bear with it. Now, you might think that you've got a list of companies with values that are matched to your organization. Let's get started and start asking for money and donations. We didn't do it in quite that way. We then divided up that list between three of us. So there was myself, one of the trustees, and another member of the team. And we went through the whole list and identified companies that we already had a working relationship with. They were the first companies that we targeted. We picked companies who the chair had a good relationship with, and he actually went and spoke to each of those organizations. He spoke to the person that he had a relationship with to get the name of the person who had decision making power in terms of giving to local charities. That person sometimes was the managing director, sometimes it was a person within the HR team, sometimes it was somebody in the marketing team, and sometimes it was a person with a CSR responsibility. And then we talked to people that he met through networking. Our chair of the board in that particular charity is a businessman himself. And so he attends lots of business networking meetings. He was also developing relationships and shouting out for the charity, just raising awareness and talking about it, letting people know the kinds of support we were looking for, which he highlighted the different types of support depending on who was around the table. So he didn't always go in and say, we want 50 quid, we want 100 quid, we want £5,000. He actually made an ask depending on who was there and what service they were offering. So that was the role of the chair. Our chief exec had relationships and contacts with other different organizations. Some of the things that he did was to approach local supermarkets, local shops, high street brands. And through visiting them, speaking to customer services, we were actually able to attract a lot of donations of goods and free services. And we also got a lot of donations of things that we could use for raffles and fundraising in that way.
Out of those original companies on Resma's spreadsheet, it was the ones where there was a personal relationship with someone in the company, like the chair, that ended up coming through for the community centre. One offered £10,000 per year for 3 years, a second company gave a one-off donation, and then the third company has become a really strong supporter of the charity. They did also send out cold approach letters, so where there wasn't an existing relationship, but Resma said that out of 150 plus letters, they only got one or two very small donations as a response, whereas selecting a handful of specific companies from their research and then relationship building has worked for them. And that support has gone beyond just giving cash, which often makes for a more effective and long lasting partnership, as Resma explains.
A lot of organizations stop there. And what we wanted to do was to keep on encouraging those businesses to keep on supporting the charity. So we welcomed whatever donations came, and then we went back to them with, how would you like us to advertise? That kind of thing. So we established the relationship with the supporters. And then we went back to them a few months later to say, thank you again. Here's the benefit that you enabled us. With a couple of the larger supermarkets and shops and businesses, we kept going back on a regular basis. We sent them newsletters, we sent them updates on certain projects, and that led to some of those businesses coming back saying, can we do more? Can we work with you more in a different way? And one of those has now resulted in like a charity of the year situation. And that has taken, I would say, 3 years to achieve. So it's been a long term commitment, but we're now seeing the benefits of that dedication and ongoing communication. They've offered cash donations, they've offered a really useful packaging machine that we use as part of our cafe for delivering meals. So it's a recycled container that they manufacture and has saved us over the course of the last maybe 2 years thousands in terms of materials that we don't need to buy, and made packaging of meals that we produce really easy. So it's taken away a lot of time, resource as well. And there have been other donations which have come through from different companies. Some have been volunteering time, some have been skills and expertise. And we've really valued some of that skills support. So we've had a website developer who's helped to revamp the whole website. We've had somebody who showed us how to transform some of the back of office IT systems. So we've had lots of different types of offers of support, donations. It hasn't just been about the money. The chair then introduced those people to our staff and our chief exec so that we can build a much stronger partnership. And they are partnerships now because there are clearly defined roles. It's not just about the give and from the company to the charity, it's an exchange. And that's the thing that I find a lot of charities forget, that companies will only offer support, donation, expertise if they're getting something out of it as well. We have to meet their sort of corporate social responsibility needs. So it is a partnership, and we do call them partners now. And none of those relationships are about them just giving us donations. We have to meet certain expectations from the company as well. And the part of the conversation has been around, what can we give in return for what we receive? This charity is based within an area of social housing. So obviously, if there's social housing, then there's a social housing landlord. And we have a very strong relationship with that social housing landlord. And we've had an awful lot of support from them. We've had support from their community development manager. We've had support from various different team members. And we've had painting, decorating, maintenance done by that social landlord as well. Because obviously, we're looking after their residents, and anything that we can do to keep them coming into the community centre and offering the services that we do means that those people stay well. And more importantly, they are maintaining their tenancy and paying the rent. So it's a win-win for us, and it's a win-win for the social landlord. Another example, not with this charity, but a different organisation that I've worked with, it's an engineering and construction company. So their corporate aims are to get people into employment and into the construction industry. What we found was that that company is really keen to build relationships with small charities working in disadvantaged areas because they want to be seen to be encouraging young people through the education system from deprived areas as part of their social value work. So that relationship has resulted in some really good STEM holiday projects. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and maths, I think. So they come in and deliver holiday activities for us, which is brilliant because it saves on staff time. It actually gives us a really good holiday offer for the charity that I am working with. To get to that point of having that person deliver those activities on a regular basis, getting to that point, developing that relationship, crossing the T's and all of that took weeks of conversations and emails and meetings and whatever. In terms of staff time, hours, I would say probably spent upwards of about 30 hours. In terms of what we get out of it, I would say the holiday activities, we get one STEM activity per week for 6 weeks. And then there's a promise of further activities over half term and other holidays for the next year. They've also promised visits to their construction sites, and they also promise us some mentoring and coaching for older school children if we can create the contacts. So, yes, it was really time consuming to develop that relationship. It was really hard work managing all of the communications, but actually the result has been really good. They haven't insisted on a massive amount of publicity, communications, all of that. But what they have said is it would be really good for them if they can get some teenagers to sign up for apprenticeships. So that's been a really good result for the amount of time invested. Another relationship that we have spent an awful lot of time with was the local co-op. This particular co-op said they were really keen to get involved and encouraged us to apply for the co-op local grant as well. There were emails flying around backwards and forwards with, yes, we'll set up a table for you in the store, come and talk to us, send us your marketing materials, all of that. So we would send information, we'd turn up for meetings or whatever, and nothing came of it. And in the end, we've had to knock it on the head because we just don't have that kind of time. That experience led us to make a decision around if after 5 emails and one meeting, we don't get something in return, we drop that relationship politely. So we've actually put a number to that. Developing like a package, a fundraising package has saved us a lot of time. So when somebody asks us for, have you got this? Have you got that? We've got that and it's ready to go. And that saved us a lot of time. So one of the things that I would really advise people to do is to develop a fundraising package with case studies, with photos, all of that usual stuff so that it's ready, and newsletters. So all of the companies that we work with like to receive email updates and newsletters. So we do that. What we also do is if there's an open day, a fundraising event, or our annual general meeting, all of our sponsors are invited to come along to those meetings and events, which actually also usually results in an additional donation. So it really is worth doing that and making that invite. Okay, so pros and cons of corporate fundraising. The first con, it's not a con, it's a negative, is that you do need to invest a lot of time. My specialism is bid writing, grant writing, and I would say corporate fundraising takes up more time than writing a grant application. So that is something that you need to be aware of. The pro is the long term relationship that you can develop will result quite often in unrestricted donations. And we always need that unrestricted funding. The other thing is sometimes that unrestricted funding can be quite big chunks of money. One of the examples earlier was they offered us £1,000 a year for 3 years. It's not to be disregarded. A con, one company that offered us a chunk of money every year for so many years sent us some money the first year. I think it was £1,000. And then we never heard from them again. And that was because obviously there's been a little bit of a dip in the economy, which resulted in this business struggling. So obviously, if the profits are lower, they haven't got the money to give. But it's really hard to communicate with them when they go quiet like that. So we just didn't hear anything. So that I would say is a negative. Whereas with a grant, if there's been a promise of so many £1,000s per year for so many years, it's coming. One thing that is a pro and a con at the same time, depending on your personality, is that it is all about building relationships and communicating with people. So that's a plus and a negative, depending on your personality.
And lastly, I asked if Resma would share her top 3 tips for corporate fundraising. So here you are.
One, develop a strategy that is the long term plan. It isn't a get rich quick scheme, it is slow and steady for the long term. Number two, it works really well if you are able to invest time and energy building relationships that are mutually beneficial, that support the business to achieve their social value aims, and that help you to achieve your fundraising needs. And three, it always comes down to what is your unique selling point, your service, who are the beneficiaries. Really talk about the work that you do and the benefits that it brings for your service users, the difference that you make. Finally, I wish you all the very best with your fundraising. Good luck. Let me know how you get on. And if you found any of this rambling useful, let me know. I'm really interested. Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much to Resma for sharing her time and the live examples of how corporate support can work for a small organisation. There's more to come, and because you've signed up for this one, you'll get an email when the next info on corporate fundraising is released. Thanks for listening. Shout me if you've got any questions, and hope to work with you soon.